Welcome to a new framework of human performance, where results aren't measured by time spent, but by biological precision. For decades, we were taught that more is better, more hours in the gym, more time on the treadmill, more restriction, more effort. But that equation is broken. What if you could achieve measurable body transformation, increased strength and enhanced endurance, not over months, but in weeks? Not by grinding, but by leveraging the minimum effective dose, the smallest possible intervention that drives the greatest possible return. This is the science of strategic adaptation. The 4-Hour Body isn't about shortcuts. It's about understanding your physiology so precisely that you can bend time. You'll learn how sleep can rewire your neurochemistry for better performance, how cold exposure and nutrient timing reshape your metabolism, how tracking real biomarkers makes your results predictable, not hopeful. This isn't about fitness. It's about biological command, a new operating system for your body. And it starts now. What if I told you that the most powerful lever for change in your body doesn't require hours in the gym or extreme diet? That in fact, most people are wasting time and energy chasing outcomes that could be reached in a fraction of the effort if they understood one fundamental principle, the minimum effective dose. In biology, adaptation happens only when the stimulus crosses a certain threshold. Too little, and the body doesn't register the need to adapt. Too much, and it wastes resources trying to recover from damage that wasn't necessary. The sweet spot, what we call the minimum effective dose, is where the real transformation begins. It's the smallest input that still triggers a significant and positive physiological output. And when this concept is applied with precision, the results are not only faster, they're more sustainable. Let's start with strength training. You don't need 7 days a week in the gym. Research and field experimentation show that 2 to 3 brief, high-intensity sessions can produce the same, if not better, gains in strength and hypertrophy compared to traditional high-volume routines. Why? Because what matters most isn't how long you train, it's how much tension you place on the muscle fibers, how well you recover, and how effectively your nervous system integrates that load. One compound lift done with full intent, proper range, and neural focus can do more than 30 minutes of aimless volume. The same applies to fat loss. Most people assume fat burning requires long, steady-state cardio sessions or extreme caloric deficits. But the body is a complex adaptive system. It responds best to intermittent stress followed by strategic recovery. One high-intensity interval session done properly can elevate metabolic rate for hours, sometimes even a full day. Combine this with brief periods of fasting or carbohydrate cycling, and you're not just burning calories. You're reprogramming how your body accesses and uses fuel. And this doesn't stop at training. Take cold exposure. A 2 to 3 minute immersion in cold water, repeated a few times per week, has been shown to increase brown fat activation, improve mitochondrial efficiency, and elevate mood through a spike in catecholamines like norepinephrine. That's a short intervention that leads to lasting neurological and metabolic benefits. Again, it's not about duration, it's about intensity, timing, and intention. Now consider the hormonal side. You can elevate testosterone and growth hormone levels without injections or pharmaceuticals. Brief, intense physical stress, like sprinting, heavy lifting, or even short duration sauna, triggers endogenous hormonal cascades that support muscle growth, fat loss, and mood regulation. These are ancient biological responses hardwired into our system. The goal isn't to do more, it's to stimulate, then let the body do the work. When we zoom out, we see the pattern everywhere. Sleep quality improves more from consistent circadian alignment than from trying to catch up on the weekends. A 20-minute nap or a non-sleep deep rest protocol can restore cognitive function faster than an hour of scrolling through your phone trying to relax. Even mental performance, focus, and creativity respond better to micro adjustments like a 10-minute sunlight exposure first thing in the morning than to any app or supplement. What unites all these examples is the understanding that the body is not linear, it's exponential. Small intentional shifts produce disproportionate results when they align with your biology. The 4-Hour Body is not a gimmick, a paradigm shift. It forces us to move away from volume and toward precision. from punishment to strategy, from blind effort to intelligent adaptation. If you're willing to challenge the traditional thinking that more is always better, you'll find freedom. You'll train less but gain more. You'll eat smarter and feel stronger. You'll begin to see your body not as something to fix, but as something to tune. And that tuning, when done right, takes far less time than you've been led to believe. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things at the right time in the right dose. That's when change becomes inevitable. If there's one universal truth about the human body, it's this: what gets measured gets improved. In the pursuit of physical transformation, most people operate with guesswork. They follow plans designed for the average person, hoping for above average results. But you're not average, and neither is your physiology. If you want elite level outcomes, you need clarity. And that clarity comes from data. Imagine trying to navigate a city without a map or GPS. That's how most people approach fat loss, muscle gain, recovery. They're guessing. But your body is producing real-time biological signals every second of every day. Hormone levels, heart rate variability, glucose response, sleep cycles, inflammatory markers. These are not abstract ideas. They are hard data, and they tell a story. The question is, are you listening? Let's take nutrition as an example. The way one person processes carbohydrates can be radically different from someone else, even if their body composition looks similar on the surface. Continuous glucose monitoring has revealed this over and over. Two people can eat the same meal, say a bowl of oatmeal, and have completely different glycemic responses. One might stay stable, the other might spike into a metabolic roller coaster that leads to a crash in energy and elevated fat storage. Without that data, you wouldn't know. You just keep eating what you think is healthy, wondering why your energy fluctuates or your body doesn't respond. This is where tracking becomes a superpower. By monitoring specific biomarkers, you create a feedback loop between action and adaptation. You're no longer guessing, you're adjusting with surgical precision. You find what foods stabilize your energy, what workouts enhance recovery, what sleep protocols actually move the needle. Instead of following a one-size-fits-all protocol, you're designing a custom system based on you. Now let's apply that same lens to training. Say you're pushing hard in the gym. Are you adapting or are you just accumulating fatigue? Without tracking heart rate variability or recovery metrics, you can't know for sure. But when you start logging that data, even just resting heart rate and sleep quality, you begin to see patterns. You notice that on days when sleep drops below 6 hours, your grip strength is lower, your reaction time is slower, your stress levels are higher. That insight allows you to make changes not based on emotion or hope, but on real evidence. You back off when recovery is low, and you push harder when the system is primed. This creates a compounding effect. The better your feedback, the more efficiently you can train, eat, recover, and perform. And the tools are available. Now, wearables, apps, simple lab tests. You don't need to guess your testosterone levels. You can test them. You don't need to wonder if your sleep is restorative. You can track your deep and REM cycles. Over time, the body becomes not just something you live in, but something you understand deeply, personally, and scientifically. And with that understanding comes power. You begin to recognize the triggers that make or break your performance. You spot trends early before they become problems. A slight uptick in resting heart rate might tell you to scale back before injury or burnout sets in. A dip in sleep efficiency may push you to shift your bedtime routine. You make micro adjustments that prevent macro failures. What's more, this level of tracking gives you a sense of control. It's not about being obsessive, it's about being informed. You don't need to monitor everything forever, but you do need a season of deep feedback to calibrate. Once you understand your body's language, you can intuitively make better decisions. It becomes second nature. And let's be honest, motivation fades, willpower fades. But data gives you proof. You see the heart rate drop after breath work. You see the body fat change after altering macros. You see how one change in sleep hygiene unlocks better training the next day. These aren't theories, they're results. And results, when tracked and understood, create momentum. This is the difference between working hard and working smart, between following plans and building systems, between chasing trends and creating a protocol that evolves with your biology. When you step into that level of awareness, your body stops being a mystery. It becomes a tool. A measurable, optimizable, high-performance system designed not just to survive, but to thrive. You don't rise to the level of your intentions, you rise to the level of your systems. Every system, biological or mechanical, has leverage points, specific areas where a small, well-placed input creates a disproportionately large output. When it comes to the human body, the same principle applies. There are precise biological switches that, when flipped, cascade into a chain of positive changes in energy, focus, metabolism, strength, and resilience. Understanding where those switches are and how to activate them is the foundation of accelerated transformation. We don't need to overhaul everything at once. Instead, we target the systems that control the others. For example, the nervous system is a master regulator. If we can shift it from sympathetic overdrive into a parasympathetic recovery state at will, we dramatically increase our capacity to adapt. That's not theory, it's observable. Just a few minutes of physiological breathing done with intention can lower cortisol, improve heart rate variability, and prime the brain for learning and performance. That's a biological leverage point. You're not forcing change, you're inviting it through the right channel. The same goes for cold exposure. We often think of it as just a resilience tool or a way to boost mental toughness, but what actually happens under the surface is far more profound. A short immersion in cold water under 2 to 3 minutes creates a neurochemical response that includes a spike in norepinephrine and dopamine, increases in mitochondrial density, and activation of brown adipose tissue. That one stimulus enhances alertness, burns fat, reduces inflammation, it supports mood, all with no pharmacological input. One intervention, multiple biological systems engaged, that's leverage. Another example is resistance training, particularly compound movements. When you squat, deadlift, or perform loaded carries, you're not just working muscles, you're triggering systemic changes. Hormonal upregulation, neural recruitment, tendon strengthening, and even improved glucose metabolism. One heavy set of deadlifts done correctly activates nearly every major system in the body. It challenges the mind, stimulates growth, and builds structural resilience. You don't need hours of isolated exercises when one properly executed lift recruits everything. Again, it's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. Nutrition follows the same rules. Strategic nutrient timing, eating protein and fat first in a meal, followed by carbohydrates, can flatten the post-meal glucose curve, reduce insulin spikes, and stabilize energy levels. That's a small behavioral change that leads to better metabolic health and less fat storage without needing to drastically alter total calories. Another leverage point, these small hinges swing big doors. The mistake people make is thinking they need to be perfect with everything. That if they miss a workout or don't eat clean for one day, the whole system collapses. But that's not how the body works. It's not fragile. It's adaptive. And when we consistently apply small, high-impact habits to the right systems, the entire organism upgrades itself. Sleep is perhaps the most underestimated leverage point of all. One change, waking up at the same time every day and getting morning light, can reset your circadian rhythm, increase melatonin at night, lower cortisol in the morning, and improve sleep depth. This improves recovery, mental clarity, fat loss, and emotional regulation without changing your bedtime or using supplements. It's simple, but it's not easy unless you understand the mechanism. Once you do, it becomes powerful. Let's also talk about the endocrine system, specifically testosterone and growth hormone. You don't need to inject these compounds. You can naturally elevate them with the right combination of stress and recovery. Short bursts of intense effort, like sprint intervals or heavy lifting, followed by deep rest, trigger these hormones in measurable ways. Add in quality sleep, enough dietary fat, and adequate sunlight exposure, and you've created the optimal hormonal environment for performance, muscle gain, and fat metabolism. It's not about chasing numbers. It's about creating the conditions for those numbers to improve naturally. All of this brings us to a central truth. The body wants to perform well. It wants to recover faster, think sharper, move better, but it needs the right signal at the right time. By focusing on biological leverage points instead of broad, unfocused effort, we activate systems that support and enhance each other. Recovery improves training. Training improves cognition. Cognition improves habits. It all becomes a loop driven by intelligent action. This is how transformation becomes sustainable. Not because you're relying on motivation or extreme discipline, but because you've aligned with how your body actually works. You're no longer fighting biology, you're partnering with it. If you want to maximize what your body is capable of, you have to stop thinking of sleep and recovery as passive. They're not downtime, they're not optional, they are biological force multipliers, amplifiers of everything else you do. You can train hard, eat clean, and track every metric, but if you neglect sleep, all of that effort is blunted. You're not fully recovering, you're not consolidating adaptations, you're not optimizing performance. In fact, you're working against your own biology. The body doesn't grow during training, it grows during rest. Strength gains, fat loss, cognitive clarity, those are byproducts of recovery, not just effort. The nervous system needs cycles of repair. The endocrine system regulates hormone pulses during sleep. The immune system clears waste, repairs damage, and resets inflammation levels. Every one of these processes depends on quality rest. The mistake most people make is equating time in bed with recovery. But recovery isn't just about duration, it's about depth. You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up feeling foggy, inflamed, or exhausted. That's not recovery. That's a signal that your system isn't completing the cycles it needs. Slow wave sleep for physical repair, REM sleep for memory consolidation, and mood regulation. Without those, your output drops, physically and mentally. The quality of your sleep dictates the quality of your waking hours. Now, here's the good news. You don't need a perfect bedtime routine to start fixing this. You need leverage points. One of the most powerful is light exposure, specifically early in the day. Getting natural light into your eyes within the first 30 to 60 minutes of waking is one of the simplest and most effective ways to anchor your circadian rhythm. That sunlight sets a biological timer in your brain that signals when to release melatonin later that evening. It strengthens the sleep-wake cycle. It improves alertness during the day and sleep quality at night. Just 10 minutes can make a measurable difference. That's a force multiplier. Another is temperature. Your core body temperature naturally drops at night. Supporting that drop helps you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Cold exposure early in the day and a warm shower or bath before bed can both help regulate this rhythm. One creates an alertness spike, the other triggers a cooling rebound that promotes sleep onset. Again, not complicated, but highly effective. And then there's the role of non-sleep deep rest protocols, short, intentional moments of nervous system recalibration during the day. These aren't naps, they're controlled shifts into parasympathetic dominance. They can last 5 to 20 minutes. They lower stress hormones, improve heart rate variability, and boost cognitive performance post-recovery. Athletes and high performers use them to extend endurance, protect against burnout, and sharpen focus. One session can reset your system without needing to shut down completely. On the biochemical side, sleep drives hormone regulation. Growth hormone pulses occur during deep sleep, crucial for muscle repair and fat metabolism. Testosterone synthesis relies on high sleep efficiency. Chronic sleep restriction tanks both. And elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, rises sharply when sleep is broken or delayed. That alone can wreck metabolic health, elevate fat storage, and impair cognitive clarity. In other words, sleep isn't rest, it's endocrine programming. Even appetite regulation ties back to sleep. Two hormones, ghrelin and leptin, are directly affected by sleep quality. Ghrelin drives hunger, leptin signals satiety. When you're sleep deprived, ghrelin goes up, leptin goes down, and suddenly cravings spike. Not because you're weak, but because your hormonal signaling is off. That's why people who don't sleep well struggle with fat loss no matter how disciplined they are. Willpower can't override disrupted biology. The point is this: recovery habits don't just support your progress, they determine your progress. And yet, most people treat them as secondary. They think recovery means taking a break. But real recovery is strategic. It's active. It's a skill set. You can train it, refine it, and measure its effects just like anything else. If you prioritize sleep and recovery, you amplify every other input. Training, nutrition, focus, drive. Without it, your system remains in a compromised state, stuck in high lev, burning energy inefficiently, adapting slowly. But when you dial in rest, truly understand it as a performance tool, you unlock another level. Suddenly, you're not just working hard, you're recovering hard. You're growing, rebuilding, recalibrating.